Hello and welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. We are closing out our first year of existence. And did you know, Paul, that Julia Minamata was the very first guest we ever had on our show?
Yes, it's an all-time classic episode.
Guess who's here? It's Julia Minamata.
Hey, hey.
How are you doing, Julia? It's always a pleasure to have you on.
I'm doing really well, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because I wonder how many times people do an episode with us and swear that they'll never be back
again.
again.
Not me. I think I pretty much proved that.
So Julia, obviously the big thing on our minds is the Crimson Diamond. We talked to you about it a year ago. And it's been a year of development and shopping it around a little bit, a couple of new demos and releases. So why don't you catch us up on the last year in review for the Crimson Diamond?
Oh, sure. Well, technically, my second episode was last April, so it's not really been a year since I've spoken about it. But yeah, there's been some stuff going on, and I've been to some stuff, and I've done some stuff. So yeah, we'll get started. I'm looking at my own dev blog for reference, which is a purpose I'd never thought I'd use this for. So hey, I get to get some value out of this now,
Awesome.
Which is kind of awesome.
And to be fair, when you were on in April, you were mostly talking about the Colonel's Bequest more so than your game. So now is a good time to. So I guess that one doesn't quite count in terms of being able to talk about your game.
Well, I mean, I guess I would enjoy speaking about Colonel's Bequest far more than my own game, although nothing new has happened with the Colonel's Bequest for quite some time. So I don't think I can add anything now. Okay, let's see. So one of the things I did since I've been on last was I finally got the demo on Steam.
Yes.
It's now there. I'd encourage anyone you can get it for free on Steam, play it, wishlist it, please. It'd really, really be helpful because apparently when you launch, the wish listing thing is kind of a big deal to them. So that's what I hear. So yeah, it's on Steam now, which is a lot harder to do than I had anticipated. And it actually made me respect every single game that's on Steam a lot more than I had before. I hadn't really thought about it, but it's kind of an ordeal. And they don't make it easy. So yeah.
Like in what way? Like what was the process?
Well, I blame myself partly for this because I'm not a programmer first. So I don't have that technical side of it. So for me to figure it out was tough. It's not just a matter of uploading a folder or anything like that.
Right.
It's a script and stuff. I really had no idea what happened, and I actually had a moment over that weekend where I thought to myself, I guess that's it. I'm just stopping now forever. It was depressing, but I got through it.
Like stopping is in like not going on Steam, or just like the game is canceled.
The game is canceled. Can't do this. I'm so tired of learning. Okay, I do love learning new things, but there was a point in that weekend when I was thinking to myself, I'm done learning new things. That's it. I'm done. It's over.
I hit that moment a long time ago.
Oh, hi. Do you like learning new things, Paul? Or do you hate it?
I'll die before I learn anything.
That's the spirit.
That's my level of stubbornness. Okay, I got one. So did you have to add actual like programming script special numbers and letters to the game to get it on Steam?
There's something called Steam Console, I think, where it's like DOS almost, where you have to, it's that, mounting and unmounting and, that stuff you do with DOSBox sometimes.
Right.
It was that kind of thing, but stuff that I completely was unfamiliar with. And I was rooting to certain directories that I had to create and everything. And I'm sure it was very straightforward for most people. But for me, I only know enough to get in trouble. I only know enough to make my own game. And anything else beyond that is completely beyond me. And the documentation that was on the Steam site was like 5 years old or something. So the stuff they were showing on their helpful tutorial was really super dated and not accurate anymore. So I'm hoping they fix that eventually. But not that I care, because, hey, it's done for me now. And now updating is actually really simple, fortunately for me.
Good.
So
good.
I withdraw that request. Steam is fine. Steam has been fine for me. But after Steam, what I did was I did set up a Patreon. And that's all that stuff's on my site. And I set it up because they were going to raise their tier rates or something. So in order to get grandfathered in at a certain kind of rate, everyone was saying that, oh, make up your Patreon and make up your Patreon. So I made up a Patreon. That was my reason. And now it's up, and it's good for like little incidental expenses here and there. And I really appreciate having that part because I'm not selling the game yet or anytime in the near future. So any little bit counts. And so that's up too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I did a little bit of well, no, I wasn't streaming, but I was on some streaming things that happened since the last time I was on. And so Skippy Granola, who's a Twitch LPer and things, he hosted me on his channel, and he played through some of the demo. Did he play through the whole thing? He might have, but we played through a bit. We had a chat. He's a lovely dude, and we had so much fun that we came back on a later date, and we actually did an LP of all three Hugo games, which was super cool. Because David P. Gray, I admire the solo game dev people quite a bit. Francisco Gonzalez, David P. Gray. They kind of take it all on, and I love that, and I love that spirit. So it was really a treat for me to do some David P. Gray research and get to talk him up a bit and sort of sprinkle in David P. Gray. Do you guys watch any LPs, things like that on the regular?
Not regular.
Yeah, and I personally have stayed away from them just because I'm really sensitive about not even spoilers, but I feel like if I know anything about a game, I won't play it because there's always way too many games to play. So as soon as if a game gets overexposed for me, I'll feel like it lost some magic or surprise element. So anyway, I'm really paranoid about watching anything about a game that I haven't played. And then I guess for the games that I have played, I already played them, so I don't need to watch it, kind of thing.
I actually really enjoy watching or listening and watching to LPs of games that I've played before, because sometimes if you're lucky, you get a commentator who knows a lot about the game and can give a bit of background and some details about the development. And I found that I've been enjoying Space Quest Historians, Trolls. Trolls is YouTube channel, watching through all his Space Quest stuff, because he'll talk about the difference between versions of Space Quest. This was version 1.1 of Space Quest 1, this is version 1.3, and the differences, and he'll show examples.
Wow. That's really the sort of thing that I probably would actually watch.
So I enjoy that kind of stuff, yeah.
It's funny you say it specifically, because I listened to his podcast version. I think a lot of the times the YouTube videos are the same as the podcast kind of deal with Trolls, when he did the Space Quest Historian stuff and Backseat Designer podcast. But he taught me during one of the podcasts, he's like, if you were saying version 1.1 and 1.2 and everything, and I remember him telling me if you have version 1.1, like the actual first release, then you could enter Ken in and get that little animation in the beginning. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
So it's, in Space Quest 1, the first option is to enter your name for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
if you put Ken in, then he comes on screen and yells at them for being late on development or whatever. But anyway, it was just a coincidence that, Julia, you happened to mention Trolls and the same version of the same game that Trolls taught me to go look at. So it is really fascinating when you can get insight like that. I never really thought about watching a stream or Let's Play and actually learning something. I just thought it would be somebody mouth breathing through a game or something. So you're turning me around on it.
You just got to find the right ones. Yeah.
Your mileage may vary. Yeah, it really does depend. Yeah. And also, for instance, the level 0 NPCs, Luke Rideout, him and his buddies, they'll do LPs of games that I've played before, even if it's the ones that I haven't played before, but are older. They did a Gold Rush, they did Codename Iceman, stuff that I don't really see myself going back to play. And sometimes it's just fun to hang out and just listen to their chatter, because sometimes people have really good rapport. So I'll enjoy some of that too.
I really wish that I had a show with somebody that I had a rapport with.
Oh, man. You're going to let that sit, Paul? Come on.
I'm still tempted to start talking more about Gold Rush, because people just keep giving me options left and right to talk about that game lately.
All right. So, where is the game now compared to where it was about a year ago?
It's developed. It's developed further. I'm actually working on my latest beta release for it. And I've mentioned before that I've separated the game in the story into about 7 story sections. The demo is 1 section, and I've finished and I'm nearly ready to beta test, what is it? Up to the 3rd section of the game. So it's coming along, but just the thing is is the more game I make, the more I end up having to test. So each time I get to that stage, it takes longer, and then the more can go wrong from the earlier stuff because I'm a sloppy programmer
Right.
and I'm just making it up as I go along. So that's an issue. And something, well, we're kind of jumping ahead here, but one of the things I did for the latest version of the beta that's not yet released is it's 32-bit version instead of the 8-bit
right.
version, which is what I started with. And the reason I did that was because I was chatting to Dave Gilbert, whom we met over PAX, but we're jumping ahead. I was chatting to Dave Gilbert about it, and he asked me, and I said, I'm doing 8-bit, and he just gave me, I think it was the emoji with like the
Yeah.
O mouth, like it just kind of looks, just taken aback. Like he didn't even say anything, and I said, "Oh, is this like a wrong thing I've done?" And he gave the impression that I probably would prefer to have it be a 32-bit game versus an 8-bit game. And I see the value in that because some people were having display issues with the game as it was. So hopefully in the next beta, people will have fewer issues and are able to display it correctly without too much finagling. And so that's part of the reason the beta has taken a bit of longer than I would have liked, especially this iteration of it. And another reason is because I did add a complete other puzzle to the beta that was Skippy's suggestion. And it made sense to me, so I added it, and it was a lot more work than I was expecting. And it took like 2 weeks to implement. So thank you, Skippy. As soon as I beta release this, I'm gonna tap him, and I'm gonna be like, "You're gonna have to test this. It is the Skippy puzzle now." And it has a lot of different things going on, and it's got a lot of steps. But the thing is people won't notice that it has a lot of steps or different options on how to solve it because they'll just do it however way they do it. But I had to give them a bunch of different options on how to do it because it didn't make sense for me not to be them to have those options that they will never appreciate probably. But we'll see about that.
So the little statements like that just blow my mind when you're like, I had to give them the player multiple options to solve the puzzle. Like, I'm not going to ask you to like explain to us and everyone listening, whatever, like how you do it actually, but like, how do you do that? Like on a, I mean, you could just say programming and I'll take that as an answer and we'll move on. But I'm just really curious, like how do you even begin to create like parameters and like set rules inside of a thing? And you're using AGS?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you find is it like, because my impression, I've zero experience, so I shouldn't even be saying this to you, but my impression from the outside reading is that AGS is like, it's ideal in many ways, and it's obviously huge and a big favorite for a reason, but that it's also not the most like user friendly in like a GUI sort of aspect. How's it been to learn that?
I would place any shortcomings that the game and the programming have squarely on my own shoulders at this point. I think that AGS for me has been really great, and there haven't been any problems. And anything that I haven't figured out how to do, it's just because of my own ignorance. So I can't say it's the engine or anything like that. It's in terms of actually just creating a puzzle or creating different options for a puzzle. I guess the thing is you kind of have to imagine how someone's going to approach that for the first time. And when you're programming, there's always, well, there's this or there's this, if and else and whatever, and just trying to cover all your bases really. And then the worst part is going back and testing all those things and making sure that you didn't forget something. I mean, the simplest thing I can think of is if you say, take marmalade, right? And then is the marmalade there or not? You got to check that first. Have you already taken the marmalade? In which case you have to have a message that says you've already taken the marmalade. All that, the little stuff like that. You kind of have to think of every situation and then test it after to make sure that it stays logically
I do have to say
consistent.
that I actually, further to that point, I was actually very surprised because there was one time I streamed playing Crimson Diamond and you sat in on that one. And my objective was because, every time I saw somebody play your game, they were just playing it like a game. They're like, oh, let's see let's try to get to the end of the demo.
Well, dare they?
Whereas, well, I sort of thought like, okay, that's great that they did that, but if there's anything is there anything that new that I can bring to if I'm going to try to stream it for myself? I sort of thought, well, I'm going to just try to break your game. I'm going to try to do things I think maybe you might not have thought of, or maybe they're going to try things that I think might just bug testing, right? Let's see.
I appreciate you doing it in public.
Think of something, yes,
on a video.
Seeing if I can think of something that you didn't think of, and to your credit, zero. Like I couldn't break that game. Maybe there's like a few clipping issues, and that was about it. I think there's like one bug. I forget exactly what it was, but otherwise, like every time I typed in something just to troll the game, there was always a response, and you always was a step ahead of me on that one. I actually really I had so much respect because it's sort of like, wow, you actually thought of this thing that I just thought up right now just to see if I could be a jerk. And yeah, and you had it covered.
Yeah, you got to think like Rick when you're programming these things. That's the key.
Building troll-proof games. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, there have been so many bugs people have found. There was one in the beta that's out now. I mean, it's not publicly available, but to my friends and the testers that I have it out, I'm pretty sure there's a bug in that won't let you leave the kitchen. And not many people have told me this. Only one person has told me this. And so it's still out there, that particular beta version. No one else has said that they can't leave the kitchen all of a sudden. But the demo is working fine. I mean, the first thing I checked was the publicly available demo to make sure that the kitchen was still leavable. And it is. So right now it's just a beta issue. And it was a simple fix. They've already fixed it.
Right.
But I'm actually horrified by the bugs that I find in it. And I just think of past Julia and her sloppy self, just not having considered certain things or just messing up little bits. And it's it's a bit of a blow to the ego when you think, okay, well, it's going well, and then you people give you a list of this horrible mistakes.
Well, I'll tell you, even AAA studios have no problem releasing their games with far more bugs than your game currently has. So,
you say that now. But yeah, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, PC Gamer, Tom Sykes of PC Gamer wrote a little article. And Diamond, super cool. And that was unexpected for me. And it's always a pleasure to see, people getting interested, especially on something like PC Gamer. Like, even my dad knows about PC Gamer. I told him that PC Gamer did an online article. And he's like, are you kidding? So yeah, even he knows about that.
Oh, awesome.
So it's really cool. It's always cool when you get like parental recognition for something.
Yeah, that's really, PC, regardless of how anyone even feels about the magazine itself, it's just the principle that they're like a staple. Like you've made it, you've arrived. If PC Gamer's covering it, I was excited for you when I heard about that. That's really big. And I also saw that Pushing Up Roses, who's got a huge YouTube channel for classic gaming and such, heavy on the and such. But I saw she had done a video just of the demo, and that was really cool because I know she's got a big reach, and I've been a fan for a long time. So when she picked that up, I'm not sure she's ever done a demo before. Like, literally just too excited to even wait for the game to come out. That was really cool.
That was so cool for me. That's actually what I was going to talk about next, because that was a surprise. I follow her on Twitter. I've been a fan of her for ages, and that was one of the high points, I'd have to say, of the year since last we spoke, is just having her be interested and to make a little video. I mean, it takes a lot of work to do a video. I've tried once, and I can say I have a lot of respect for that too. And so just having someone that you've admired for years, feature your thing on their channel that was amazing for me. Yeah, absolutely.
So did she just find it? Like, was it just out there and she just like came across it on her own?
I think she said that her fans were telling her about it.
Oh, okay.
That she should try it, which is even better too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. And speaking of, I did make someone on Twitter asked me a technical question about how I do my animation and how I integrate it into Adventure Game Studio. So I did a little 7-minute video that's up on my channel. I do have a channel, but there's not a lot going on there. I'm not sure really what I want to do with my YouTube at the moment. But there's my game trailer. I have a playlist of all the LPs that people have done, and I've made my own one video, and it was not easy to make this one video that was 7 minutes long. I don't understand how people do it, but it's just a how-to video, like, of a technical aspect. And I'm kind of thinking, maybe I'd want to eventually go back and just sort of do a series on how I've developed and things like that. But that's something I'm not really considering right now. It's just something for the future potentially.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, there was a period there where I was working really hard to get just okay enough at pixel art to maybe have a go at it, and I watched a lot of not a lot. That's my point. I watched the 2 available tutorials for AGS that I could find, and they were fine. Oh, yeah. They did their hardest, or tried their hardest, whatever. But there's not, my point is there's not enough, in my opinion, like tutorials on this specific genre, which it's niche and specific, of course. But I'd love it for selfish reasons if you'd done that thing, please.
Maybe. I mean, I do have that Patreon now. I don't know if I would want to give it to only Patreon people. I kind of would want the most people possible to see it, because I would like more people to make Adventure Game Studio text parser games or EGA games. So I don't imagine that I would leave it just for Patreon. I'd want it to just be on my channel. We'll see. It's something I have to think about. It's not something I'm considering seriously right now, because I'm just trying to get the game done and do a little bit of traveling here and there and just show it in places. So we'll see. Indie Games Plus did an article about it. Joe Couture did an article, which is really cool, and he did a really good compare. I think he did. No. The next person did the comparison. One of these two articles? I can't remember who, but there's a guy in Indie Games Plus, Joe Couture, and Steven Schroeder at Medium.com. They both did articles in the same. It must have been the same month, I think, about the game. And one of them was a really big. You can tell he's a really big adventure game fan, and especially the Laura Bow stuff, because he actually posts screenshots of both games and discussed the similarities and the differences and things. That was really in depth.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, that was Steven Schroeder at Medium.com. So all these links are on my site if anyone ever wants to read these. Every single time someone writes about it or shows an interest, it's just the best thing for me, because when you're working on your own to do something, you're just in your room and you're kind of just in your own head a lot of the time. And I don't really leave the house a lot either. So just knowing that it's reaching out to other people and they're getting interested and excited, it's just the best. It's the absolute best for me. And August was great. So yeah, we talked about Space Quest Historian Trolls. I was on his channel to do a video chat with him when he played through some of the demo. That was just really cool.
That's what I actually didn't know about.
Again, coming from. Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I'm sure you might have mentioned it, but there's times where there's so much stuff going on that things get past me.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I recommend that one. He has a lot of fun with it, and we have a little bit of a chat. And I think that was my first video thing that with him. And he's a great host. I mean, you know from PAX that he's a great host.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the Adventure Game panel that we will get to. And so yeah, I mean, that was a great experience for me, and he had a lot of fun with it. And the same month, I was on Matt Chat with Matt Barton. And that was really cool as well.
Right,
he played through some of the demo. Yep. And we talked about it. And he's a really great interviewer. He's a really smart guy. He teaches English, so he's all about the writing and things like that. And he's a big lover of these old style games. And it's funny because with him, Stig from Classic Gamers Guild kind of had him do a shout out about my game on his channel, and that's kind of how we got connected.
Right. Yes.
And so it's having that was awesome, and I thanked him later for it on Classic Gamers Guild, and Steve was like, "I've got a reputation to uphold of being like a frosty Nordic man," or something like that. Thank you very much for connecting us. And so Matt, I mean, I recommend Matt Chat as well. He's got a great channel. He's interviewed Laurie and Corey Cole, Brenda and John Romero, Alexei Pajitnov, who invented Tetris, and Richard Garriott, and Jane Jensen, like so many people he's interviewed. Oh, Josh Mandel over the years.
Wow.
So I definitely recommend his channel.
Yeah, it's really good. I feel like I think I just saw one recently of him with perhaps Al Lowe. I think. Why not? Maybe.
He's done one with Al Lowe. I don't know if he's done one recently, but he has done one with Al Lowe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's one I saw recently.
I recommend all those. And there was another person who streamed my game, and her name is Ask Alice. And she was a Twitch streamer. I can't find her. I don't know how Twitch works, because sometimes I want to link to these things and then they kind of go away after a few days or after a certain number of videos.
Right.
And I hope to figure out how that works, but I would have loved to link to it, because she streamed the demo for 3 hours.
Oh wow.
Wow. That's opening it in every door twice.
Yeah. And she didn't even finish it, which was so hilarious to me. But she was great, and I just learned about that on Twitter. And it's funny because she was streaming another game before, and she said, "Oh, this looks like a cool game. It's a demo. I'm going to try it out, and then we're going to get back to the other game that I was playing." That she said to her viewers. And for 3 hours, she's like, she couldn't believe how long the demo was, I guess, because apparently she's used to much shorter demos. And so she said eventually maybe she'll come back and finish it, but we'll see. We'll see if she can get around to it again.
Yeah.
But that was an awesome experience too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, the demo, it's been great having one. I mean, and apparently it's sort of an exception rather than the rule when people are at this stage of development is actually to have that vertical slice of a playable demo. So I recommend it to anybody else. I mean, from my own, this is my first experience doing any of this, and so I'm glad I have it. And just so happens, to have it out there, to have people get interested is really a good tool to have.
It's got to be great for the morale too, as far as, like you said, being kind of holed up in the house for long periods of time and just in your head all the time. And it's nice, and you put this out there, and then PC Gamer and all these people are streaming it and reviewing it, and that's gotta be really good for like to recharge your batteries.
Absolutely. Every time someone sort of, I get another Twitter follower or someone on Patreon or an article or something, it just kind of makes me feel that I'm moving in the right direction with it, because it can feel like working in a vacuum, right? And not, you don't get feedback a lot of the time, and you don't really know if what you're doing is interesting. And one of the problems when you're testing a game is it starts to get really boring. And you kind of start wondering to yourself, is this actually any fun? Would this even be a fun thing for people to do? Because you keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Right. It's almost like jokes, right? I mean, it's hard to imagine someone's going to laugh at something if you've practiced it, over and over and over again, until you actually see people react to it. And then you kind of get this feeling like, okay, maybe I'm not, misleading myself in that's of any value.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I first became aware of the Crimson Diamond back before it was called the Crimson Diamond, and probably about like 2 years ago. So probably before before the guild, the Classic Gamers Guild started. I was new into the online community, and I saw posts in some of the groups about your game, and it was obviously an immediate attention grabber, just because it's like, it's so cool to see somebody working on something that's just such a perfect, spot on throwback to the old style, especially in the style of Colonel's Bequest. Around that time, so going back about 2 years, what was the exposure on the game like at that time? Like, was there a lot of coverage over it at that point?
Let's see. Well, the demo became public available, I think, last November, because I had entered it to be shown at something called Wordplay in Toronto, at the Toronto Reference Library here. Mm-hmm. And when I got in, it's a showcase of about 25 games all over the world. And when I got in, I realized I need to have something to show people. And so when I actually had a lot of the demo already built at that point, but I was kind of doing everything kind of scattershot. Like I said, I'd leave it for a long time. I'd do work. I'd come back to it. I'd forget where I was. And I didn't really have that, like, a specific goal in mind for it at that point until I had to make the demo. And then when I had to make the demo, it suddenly, everything starts clicking into place. Well, these are the things I need to do in order to get this ready for people to play. And so the first time anyone ever really saw it, beyond just myself, was at Wordplay last November. And then I think that's pretty much the only place that was publicly being shown. And then, with the guild and everything, I started to share it in Weekend Con, which any Classic Gamer Guild member is welcome to do. Every weekend I put up a post, and you can share your project. It doesn't have to be a computer game project. It can be anything you're doing creative that you want to share with us: music, games, art, anything. And so I started putting it on there, and I don't know. I mean, it's weird because the PC Gamer and all that stuff that got published online was not anything I was seeking out myself. It's not like I was contacting PC Gamer and asking them to write an article about it. It's just people found it themselves.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm not actually, I'm not actually sure how they've been finding it, because I only recently put it up on Steam. So I should ask.
Didn't it even come out on? I'm not sure exactly the chronology myself. I almost feel like it was featured in PC Gamer before it was released on Steam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So that's impressive.
Yeah, so someone downloaded it directly from my site because that was the only way it was available at the time. And I don't even know if I would ever download a demo directly from anyone's site. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of impressive all on its own.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
now, it's still direct on the site, and it's on Steam. The demo's on Steam, and the demo is also on itch.io. And I have to look into GOG or GOG. Do you guys say GOG or GOG?
GOG.
Yeah, GOG.
Oh. GOG.
We know what you mean
I had to
either
look
way.
into putting it there.
Yeah.
It sounded so abandoned in that moment. Yeah.
So awkward. You never know. Yeah, so I'm trying to work out putting in other places, you know. So yeah, GOG. Yeah. Oh no, what you said, GOG or GOG? GOG.
I pick one. It doesn't matter. It's like GIF and GIF. I don't care.
I'm gonna switch my answer just to mess with you continuously. Have you saying it on a loop?
Well, whatever that place is called, we all know what we're talking about. Yeah, so
Yes.
so that it's available in those places, and until I got to work on the other one and the rest of it. And I think at this point we can start talking about PAX and all the cool stuff we got to do in PAX.
Mm-hmm.
And how cool it was we got to volunteer with Transsolar Games, Laurie and Corey Cole, at their booth that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an amazing experience.
Yeah,
this was that. And it was also valuable for me because I could see how that was done, and I'm going to be doing that soon too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually just as a point of note, this was the over PAX weekend was the very first time that you and I had met in person.
Yes.
Because even though
we're magical.
Yeah, even though globally speaking we're pretty much neighbors. Like I'm over in Ottawa and you're in Toronto, so we're really hop, skip, and a jump away from each other. But when we finally met, it was in Seattle. So kind of funny to think of it like that.
We got to meet I met a lot of people that I'd never met before that we just know from the guild, and it was awesome. It was instant, I already know you guys, and it was already familiar and already comfortable. So that was really cool to have that. Yeah, not something I was ever expecting that I would get a chance to do. So, and we could move on, I guess, to talking about how, yes, I got to meet Doug Herring, who did the art for the Colonel's Bequest, which is clearly my favorite art, my favorite SCI EGA art, probably my favorite adventure game art, and the biggest creative visual inspiration for the Crimson Diamond. So I don't even know what to say about that, because I didn't ever think in my whole life that would ever happen. And I got him to sign my Colonel's Bequest big box that you and Roberta both kind of Frankenstein together out of extra pieces. So I've got a full Colonel's Bequest big box. And it's so special to me because you guys kind of both work together to create it and get it to me. And having him sign it was kind of the capper on the whole thing. So yeah, the experience was just like a once in a lifetime type of thing,
For sure, yeah.
And to actually get to talk to him about art, he's a really interesting guy. He's awesome. Really cool and interesting. And so we got to talk about computer art, just like actual art painting. He gets up to all kinds of stuff nowadays, where he makes props and he makes all kinds of cool stuff, and he shows it on Facebook.
Oh, sweet! And
so, I sometimes still chat to him from time to time on Facebook Messenger, and we talk about paint. And I talk about this new paint that came out last November. It's called Liquitex acrylic gouache. I'm serious.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, he said he's going to try some and see how it report back, because he used to really like another kind of paint that they don't really sell anymore. So I'm hoping that it's going to be something he's going to be able to use going forward. But that was really cool. I also got to meet Francisco Gonzalez.
That's right.
Who made a Golden Wake in Lamplight City and a bunch of other games in AGS, the Ben Jordan series. Never thought I'd ever meet him. I'm a huge admirer of him because he's basically doing what I want to do. He's a solo indie dev making adventure games in Adventure Game Studio, and being able to ask him actually even specific technical questions about, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that. He has been really like super awesome, super nice and helpful. So that's like crazy. I can't believe I got to meet him either.
Yeah, he's just such a really cool guy. This is a really cool, nice guy.
Yeah, he's so nice and really cool. Yeah, they say don't meet your heroes, but I don't know. I've had nothing but good experience.
Right?
Yeah, I concur with that. Yeah, quick question. I forgot his name, but the guy who you met who did the art for Colonel's Bequest, what was his name?
Doug Herring. Yeah.
Doug Herring.
Douglas Herring.
Did he do any other games with Sierra? Because that art is so it's so unique and distinctive in that game.
Yeah, he did some animations for Conquest of Camelot, and he did a bit of work on Quest for Glory 2 as well. But he said to me that Colonel's Bequest is sort of like the gem for him because that's the one he did basically all the art on,
right?
And that's really his trademark one.
Yeah, because you can just tell that game stands out from all the Sierra games. It just has just a different style, just a different vibe, I guess, more than style, because styles are limited back then. But yeah, just the kind of darkness of the palette and stuff. It's just really really unique. So I was wondering if I could see his work anywhere else, and I kind of suspected maybe not, just because nothing else is as unique as that one.
Well, it's cool because where I met him was I met him at this party that was happening over PAX, and there was a musical performance by Liana, who's another Gilder, Liana Kersner, and Keith O'Neill. They're both Gilders, and they both they did this great routine where they swapped out song lyrics for adventure game lyrics, and they had a big screen where they were showing clips from the old adventure games, and they pretty much run the gamut of I think all of the Sierra series and a couple LucasArts games. And while that was happening, Doug Herring was standing behind me, and when the Conquest of Camelot stuff came on, he tapped me on the shoulder and goes, "Oh, I did that part." Doing the little enemy. Awesome. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I think I choked up pretty hard meeting him.
Yeah. It's just such a surreal experience meeting all these people like in the same room, the people that you never really think you would meet in your life, and then suddenly here they are at the same party. I think there's I have a picture somewhere on Facebook, and it's this great picture of I believe it was Al Lowe talking with Josh Mandel, and in the background is Corey Cole eating a pizza, and it's this just covers exactly just how amazing and bizarre this whole situation is. Just seeing everyone just seeing all these heroes, and they're just so casual and just hanging out.
Yeah, it was bananas. It was bananas crazy. Dave Gilbert, I got to meet Dave Gilbert as well. I never thought I'd ever meet him. It's funny because I should check the date of this email, but I emailed him at least 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, because I knew he commercially released and published Adventure Game Studio Adventure Games, and I had some questions about, okay, well, how would I go about that myself? And he answered promptly and in great detail, and he was super nice.
Oh, sweet!
And I thought, I got an email from Dave Gilbert. He answered my questions. That was so cool. And then I got to meet him and then talk to him about the games, and I got to ask him questions, and he asked me how the project is going, and I got to play a bit of the demo for him. And that was also one of those things never really expected to happen ever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Julie, I was speaking of AGS. So I noticed a lot of the devs on AGS sneak a blue coffee mug, a blue cup into the game. Have you done that?
Of course. I have a GIF of it actually, and it's in the kitchen. And I took special care because it's in a sort of a glass paned cabinet that you can kind of see the silhouettes of the mugs that are in there, and you open it up and there's a blue mug and all the other mugs are white. You pick up the blue mug.
Oh, awesome.
And it's an inventory item. You use it in the puzzles in a puzzle, at least one puzzle. Cool. And when you close the glass pane cabinet, you can still see the silhouettes of the mugs, but the blue mug silhouette is now gone. So I made sure that you kind of get that see-through thing where, yes, I've taken a mug and I can see that I've taken the mug even though the cabinet is now closed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did add a blue cup. And there's a little thing, if you examine the blue cup, it actually says it says AG Studio on the bottom, and it says Chris Jones, and the version that I'm using of awesome. AGS, which is an older version. Yeah.
For anyone listening now who has played a bunch of Wadget Eye games or Francisco games, if it's just clicking now shit, has there been a blue mug? Probably.
Now I got to watch for them. I know that Lamplight City had one for sure because I have finished that one, and it's sort of I think it is one of the last scenes of the whole game. It's there, so.
Nice.
I have to do this, is what I thought. So
Yeah.
that's the one I saw that inspired me. Let's see, and I think we're just about caught up to everything that has gone on since we talked last. Although I do have a couple things I'm working on that are going to happen the next couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So next month, October 18th to 20th, I'm going to be showing at EGLX in Toronto at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. So I'm actually going to have a little table and have the demo playing up there.
Oh, awesome.
So anyone in Toronto, anyone in Toronto or near Toronto, Toronto adjacent, please come down. I'll be there all this. It's Friday, half a day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day, and y'all be there. I've got postcards, and I'll be happy to chat and talk. You can see the game, just the demo as it is, and so that's one of the things I've got going. And the next thing I have is Adventure X, which is November 2nd and 3rd at the British Library. Yeah, which is something, again, I never thought I'd go to that. I've seen even Trolls would go every year. He's not going this year, but he's gone every year that it's been happening. And he has sort of like a travel log that he did of the event and everything. And I'd watch it and go, oh, that looks so cool. And I wish I could go to that one day. And, I know Dave goes and Francisco goes. And it's more like of a community one because it is specifically adventure games.
Yeah.
And so, and I've never been to London, England either. So it's going to be a real special trip. My sister's coming with me, so it's going to be crazy nice. Special because we've never actually traveled together like that before. And just having that kind of sisterly bonding trip is going to be really cool. And she's so excited, which is great. So she's been planning all kinds of stuff for us to do. And it's been really nice that you're going to be able to share the experience.
Nice.
And just, yeah.
Well, the last I heard, I believe that our friend Lainey Berry will actually be at Adventure X as well. So if you see her, make sure you say hi for us.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. Yeah, I will look for her. I am my game set up at a table there. So I'm kind of going to be stuck to that table for the duration of the weekend. But I hope, I hope
throw
she
something
comes
at
to the
her.
Pub after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope she comes by to me and we can chat and say hi because I would love to do that with her.
Yeah.
It's a small showcase. It's a pretty small event, actually. I think that's another one where if it's like a 20, 25 game showcase type of thing. So anyone who is London, England, or London, England adjacent, come visit and chat and see how it is and tell me what's cool to do in London.
It seems like it's really like a potent event because every year when it goes on, like the biggest adventure games for the year are always at Adventure X. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool to think. And it's funny that I say small, but that's just me, a symptom of me not being good at selling myself and promoting myself because I really should be seeing exclusive, not small. Like, for instance, Elsinore, we're going to be at Adventure X. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the opportunity to do that. And I'd have to say that actually, it's funny because something I forgot to mention that I did between last April and now is I actually got to go to my old college and do a special guest lecture spot.
Nice.
There, which is like a bucket list thing that I had on my list.
Yeah.
Ever since I graduated,
Everyone wants to do that. That's great.
Exactly.
So I got to do it. I mean, it's a technicality because it wasn't off of the thing I graduated from, which was interpretive illustration. I got a bachelor's of interpretive illustration at Sheridan College. And I was actually lecturing on game narrative for a game design course that was happening over the summer.
Nice.
So a technicality, but I'll take it. And it was a great experience. And I actually got to talk to some students about my feelings on game narrative. And it kind of segued into, in the indie game stuff and why adventure games are something that the indie game community seems to really not get tired of and still want to create more of. Is because it's something that it's actually manageable for one person or a small team to create a quality product with a great story and with like an average game length experience that you'd expect of 5 to 7 or 8 hours, and everyone feels like they got value from that, and you don't have to employ. For instance, Breath of the Wild took 300 developers 4 years to make.
Right.
It's not like that in adventure games, and the types of adventure games we were brought up on in the early 90s and late 80s were made still by fairly small teams.
Yep.
And we have only gotten better in terms of the tools that we have at our disposal and digital distribution, that those small teams, we can create really great stuff and have it on par of the stuff that people remember so fondly back in the day, which is kind of what the Crimson Diamond is about.
Mm-hmm.
Creating something that looks like it was from that era, and hopefully, something of a potentially similar quality to that era, but just one person doing it instead of a team of people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible. Well, I hope it's possible. But other people have proven it's possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another reason why, the adventure game community, I think, has been strong, especially, I think, ever since digital distribution got around and we don't have to worry about shelf space. There's something called Fan Expo in Toronto. That might be something I want to look into.
Okay.
We'll see about that too. So that's another thing, another potential possibility. I'm not sure when that's on though, but that one gets a lot of traffic, and it would be a way to show the game to not just the same audience, the same computer game indie audience people. It would be a way to show the game to people who might have played adventure games back when they were kids, but then kind of stopped playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like that before I came back to the when I joined the Classic Gamers Guild. I actually hadn't really played anything for ages until then. I mean, I was playing a little bit here and there, but I'm coming into a community that actually really celebrates the classic adventure games. That got me interested, and I learned about new stuff that was happening. And so I feel like potentially something like Fan Expo, which is kind of a more general kind of a gaming or like fan kind of show with games and art and entertainment, maybe would reintroduce people to the style of game that they remember, that they feel like, well, that's the kind of thing I used to like, but we don't have that around anymore. They might not be aware. So I'm hoping maybe I can get a bit of an audience that way.
Right.
Yeah, I've got one random, just developer question as far as, getting inside of your mind and seeing how you and people before have just even begun to create these games. I'm wondering, what's your thought process as far as how to construct a puzzle?
Well, the way I see it is I try to make a puzzle. I never try to make it difficult. I don't want to make something that doesn't actually make logical sense. So when I'm designing a puzzle, I'm just trying to, here's a step-by-step, how to bake a cake or something, right? I mean, that's not a puzzle, right? How to bake a cake. There's certain steps that everyone expects that they're going to have to perform in order to bake that cake in whatever inventory items you're going to need. So I kind of approach it that way. It's not a matter of fooling people or tricking people or getting them to buy the hint book, really. So that's how I think about it. And I tried to make the puzzles as easy as I could. I think I've spoken previously that I want the game to be more about enjoying the story and the characters. And in that same Cornell's Bequest method of, you can get to the end, like Rick, you said you didn't even know what was going on, but you got to an ending.
Yeah,
in a way.
That's right.
Yeah. So you can kind of enjoy it to some, of course, the better you know the game, and the better, you can learn about everything that's going on, the more you'll get out of the experience. But I don't want it to be something where you're stuck and you can't actually progress. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm going to, give props to Skippy, because Skippy, I think, is the first one who's played the beta all the way to the ending that I've got to. And he tweeted that the puzzles were tough but fair. Right. Which I think is a really great compliment. But at the same time, I wasn't trying to make them tough. I was trying to make really easy puzzles, but apparently, it's different when it's not you.
Yeah, exactly.
One more on that. How do you know, or how have you planned out when to put a puzzle in? Is it too many or too little of them? Things like that. Yeah,
that had to do with, I had to plan out the story and the story beats and what was going to happen in the story. And from there, I started to say, well, okay, these things need to happen in this part of the story, and then this happens in the next part. And it's good to have that all laid out, because then you can start seeing where there's something that is too short. If something's too short, maybe I'll combine that section with something else. Or if something's too long, maybe I should cut that section into two, or try to just structure it that way. It had to, for me at least, when I'm building it, I'm really in mind that I don't want it to be too uneven in terms of length for each of the acts. I wanted them to be, the first one's pretty short, although, Alice would disagree, having played it for 3 hours and have not even getting half through the thing. But she was enjoying it, which was the important part. So I wanted to make it short, but then, some of them do get a bit longer and more involved. And I actually had it was going to be 10 sections of game, but when I took another look at it, I realized, well, at this point you kind of have to look at it objectively and say, well, this is something that might be too much, or this is not going to work, or if I combine these, that makes more sense, because these two were two little short acts, so I'm going to put them together, make one larger act, and it kind of feels, yeah. So I mean, it's a matter of, for me, I mean, I can't really speak to it too much yet because I haven't finished the game, but I would say that I'm aware that I have to pace it in a certain way. Like, I mean, I always try to pace at the end of an act or whatever. I want there to be like a bit of a cliffhanger, or something exciting happens that makes you want to go into that next part of the game.
So I was wondering, when you mentioned earlier you had a game where you could, or I'm sorry, a puzzle that could be solved from a couple of different ways, and you mentioned inventory items. I was wondering, like, how do you remember the layout of the house and all the items in the house and where they are? Like, do you have to like print that out and post it on the wall, or do you just have to memorize it?
That is a problem I'm having more and more as I develop more of the game. Is I've been relying on my own kind of memory and keeping things straight in my head, but at a certain point, it's getting to be cumbersome and hard to keep track of. For instance, the Skippy's puzzle that I just put in the game that he's gonna have to test for me. There were so many little bits and pieces that were involved in that. I don't even know if I've gotten it right yet, but I tried to hold that all in my head and just try to make sure I thought of every situation or condition of the puzzle. And I started having to write stuff down, and I probably should have some kind of formalized procedure on how I would do that, because there is a lot involved when you're designing something like this. Because if you change like an inventory item, you have to change the graphic of the inventory item, and then you go into a room and things have changed and things are now different, so you have to keep all that in mind. And that's what I mean by when I test it, as it gets bigger, it just gets harder to test. And each time I get to that stage, I'm thinking to myself, it's now getting too hard for me to do this. And I hope I stay wrong about that feeling until the very end. But each time now I'm like, this is like, I've now bitten off more than I can chew with this, because I'll have added something and it will have broken something that I had done before or something. And then I got to figure a sloppy workaround on how to make that thing work again. So it's kind of like a first time developer kind of thing. Reputable sources that's how everyone always feels, which is terrifying. But for a first timer, and just trying to keep everything in my head is something that I don't think I'll be able to keep up for much longer. So
I would imagine you need maybe one of those, like, those like post-it boards where you put it all over the wall and then connect it with like red string, like that meme. Just kind of going mad.
Yeah, it's like in Silicon Valley. Yeah, there's like there's a Japanese name for that process. I don't remember what the name was, but yeah, it's like some sort of workflow thing where it's going to have to. It should be like that probably now, but yeah.
It'll give you a room a nice serial killer vibe.
Yeah, it's nice. It's colorful. I don't know if I have a wall for that.
Anyways, just before we wrap up here, do you have any final thoughts or any little last shout outs you'd like to make here?
Well, first I'd like to say, I don't think any of this could have happened in terms of the PAX stuff and meeting all these awesome people. Both the guilders, who are awesome people, admins, mods, and the people we got to meet, like Dave Gilbert and Francisco and Doug Herring. I don't think any of that would have happened if we didn't have the Classic Gamers Guild. So I'm going to say thank you for the Classic Gamers Guild. You and Roberta,
Aww.
You put something together that is very special. And it's really done a lot for a lot of us. So that's first. Mm-hmm. That's first, absolutely. This is one of those things where you take a chance, you friend someone on Facebook that you don't know, and that often doesn't end well. But I will have to say that in this case, it has been just an amazing experience and amazing growth and new friendships. So that's been really great and special. So first of all, that. And second of all, thank you to everyone who is supporting me, however you do that, just commenting, twittering, following, anything. It's all like manna from heaven for me. That's how I run. That's what I run on when I'm just by myself. So I do appreciate anything anyone ever says, even with the feedback. if you have something that you think is a problem with the game, you have a criticism, you think I could do something better, please tell me. I'm not going to take it personally, and I just want to put out the best game I possibly can. So thank you for anyone who gives me feedback. Thank you for any kind words or otherwise, as long as it's civilized. I appreciate any of that. There has to be a caveat. Like, I didn't say you could just say whatever, but any criticism is welcome. Feedback is welcome. So thank you to anyone who's done that so far. Thank you for anyone who's thinking about doing it, because it will make it better. It'll make the game better. So there's that. And lastly, I'd like to say congratulations for a year of your podcast. I don't know what the stats are. You know what the stats are. So tell me what the stats are. How do people last a year? What are the percentages here?
I am led to believe that 50% of podcasts that start fail before the 7th episode, and something like 50% of those remaining fail before, what was the next number, like 20? So I think we're into the 40s now, so we're doing pretty well. But
that's amazing.
But when we have a pretty decent listenership at the moment. I think each episode averages from about 80 to 100 listens over time. Not huge numbers, but it's it's something. That's 80 to 100 people that's listening to us, and that's pretty great. And honestly, as long as it continues to be fun to do, and it's absolutely been a blast to get to know and get to talk to people like you and talk to a lot of all the other guests that we've had on the show over the past year. It's sounds corny, sounds hokey, but it really is its own reward. And of course, it was through this podcast that I got to know Paul. He started as a guest. Now he's a co-host.
It's lovely. It's lovely, the rapport you guys have. It's something I love to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, mate.
How about you, Paul? Just before we get to you, Paul, I'll just give the last little call to action. First of all, thank you so much for coming back on to the show, Julia. It's always a pleasure. For those of you listening at home, you can follow us on Facebook. We have a page. We have a group. We're on Twitter at the CG Guild. We have a Patreon. Come find us if you'd like to support the show. Every little bit counts. And Paul, is there anything you would like to say to close out our first year of the podcast?
Buddy, on the spot. I love you all, everyone. If this hit your eardrums, I mean you. Genuine, actual love. And don't do murder.